Hi, I'm Allie. Join me as I show you how to make these Homerun earrings featuring some gemstone rondelles. If you need any supplies, look below the video in the description. That'll put links to get back to our website where you can gather up all your supplies. Gather everything up and let's get started. So these earrings are growing from a subscription box project, and they are using 3x4mm faceted Larimar and Amzonite Jade combo rondelles. I'm using the greenish color that I didn't use in my subscription project. And the first thing I'm going to do is make my row of my 5 rondelles. Those 5 rondelles are going to be separated out originally by 2 11-0 seed beads. So you're going to pick up rondelles followed out by 2 11-0 seed beads. And we are going to make this into basically a 5-pointed star. You can make this project with different amounts. That's totally up to you. And you want to make sure after you're done collecting those 5 beads here that you go in and you add seed beads to the end. We're going to let this drop down to the base of my size 8 dragon thread. And I have a size 10 needle here. I'm going to tie this into a knot, leaving just a little bit of thread to tie onto. Don't need a ton. And once you have that tied into a knot, we are going to go through the next rondelle, because remember we picked up seed beads last. We're going to sew through the rondelle, and we're going to actually make this a closed loop. We're going to make it a closed loop by putting seed beads on the interior of the design. How are we doing that? We're going through our 2 11-0 seed beads, and we're going to add 2 more 11-0 seed beads to it. We're going to do that in a ladder stitch version, so 2 get added back through the 2 that our thread was coming out of. We go through the next rondelle, through the next 2 seed beads, and out. You want to make sure you have all your extra thread pulled so that way you don't have any extra thread showing. This one here shows a good example. I twisted it by accident, nice little pull, and that should be sitting right on top. 2 more seed beads get added, back through the seed beads that you're coming out of, through the rondelle as well, and out. You're going to do this the whole way around your circle, going in and adding these 2 beads and circling back through. As you go through your rondelle as well, you're just kind of pulling nice and tight as those seed beads fall to the outside. The next thing we're going to do is pull those 2 beads to the inside. Now that being said, you don't need to do this step that I'm doing right now if you want it to have a little bit of a bigger opening. I like the closed form. It holds really nicely, and that's why I went in and put these seed beads in place. And after completing this last ladder stitch section here, we are going to go and we'll have that little section done. Listen up, beaders. For a limited time, when you subscribe to the treasure box, you'll get 2 boxes for the price of 1. That's right, subscribe in November and we'll include the fabulous October box free. Get all this creativity for just $39.99. So go ahead, spoil yourself, or gift a box to a fellow beader. Subscribe now at PotomacBeads.com. Together we create. From here, I'm going to take my thread and needle through my first rondelle, through my first 2 seed beads, and remember there's a knot around here somewhere, so you might need to kind of do a little wiggling. And once you're coming out through those first 2 seed beads, you're going to step up, so you're coming out through your second set of seed beads. We're going to fold these seed beads towards the interior, and we're going to link them all together, going from second row of seed beads all the way around, folding them in towards the interior through the second row. Now you're going to ask, why didn't we do that originally? It doesn't fit as nice. I tried to do this where I ladder stitched off the first 2, but the gemstones didn't quite sit correctly. So we're doing it kind of the reverse, just so we have those gemstones solid, and then we go in and do these seed beads. All right, so now I'm back to the front here. You can see all of those little threads. I'm going to do a nice tight pull here, pushing down with my fingers to put those seed beads towards the interior. And I'm going to go through them one more time. Nice tight pull, and see how that really closes them in so they're right next to one another. Our next thing that we do here is we are going to come out of one of those ladder stitch rows. These are also just a really cute little star for the holidays. We're going to go through our 2 seed beads that are in between our rondelles from the original row, wiggling kind of between there because it can be a little tight. Make sure that thread stays to the side, and we are going to go through our rondelle. When we come out our rondelle, we are going to add some crystals. I have 2 by 3 millimeter or 3 millimeter crystals in there. I'm going to switch to some 2 millimeter bicones. We are going to add one of our crystals in between one of each of our seed beads and sew through to the next rondelle. Kind of just fills that void a little bit with this soft summery look, or the soft winter of a crystal, a seed with a seed bead on each side. Into the next rondelle, crystal, bicone, crystal. Again, these are a 3 millimeter. Anything 3 or 2 or 3 millimeter will work for this. Going through. And as we get the 4th one in place here, we're going to continue basically to step up. To step up, you're going through your first seed bead before the crystal. And we are going to exit through the crystal. Now what we're going to do is loop from crystal to crystal and add some extra beads. We are going to add 2 seed beads along with a new rondelle, along with 2 seed beads and back through the crystal. So 2 seed beads, rondelle, 2 seed beads. You're going to loop over to the next crystal. And that's going to expand those on the outside. So you're going to end up looking like your rondelles are sitting one on top of the other. Here's 2 of those going through then that next crystal. And I've got 3 more to add. Once you're going into your crystal here, you're once again going to step up, finishing this row here. That's my 5th rondelle. And I'm going to step up through those first 2 seed beads and come out through the rondelle. Now, obviously this is a star shape. You can use this for a lot of different items. I wanted my piece to be a little bit more dramatic. So to do with that drama, we're going to go in and add another row of rondelles, but just to the bottom. I actually think this looks a little bit like a baseball stadium. You could even make it more dramatic by adding more of the rondelles to the bottom. Here at the top, we are going to grab our wire guard, go through the wire guard while we're coming out this rondelle, down through the wire guard on the opposite side, and through the rondelle again. So that way, if you want to do your star, you are stopping here. If you want to keep going and do that little bit more dramatic effect, you're going to sew through, or you're going to pull tight on that rondelle, and you're going to make a seed bead bridge to go to the next rondelle for the starter of this. Right here, you're going to add a total of your 7 seed beads. And if it sits a little funky, you can always go in and add more or take less out, depending on kind of how tight you pull your thread. You want it to arch over and loop. You do not want to have any extra thread showing, and you do not want to be pulling at all. So you want it to kind of just hang out there. From here along the side, we're going to add 3 of our seed beads, another one of our rondelle, 3 more seed beads, which I'm kind of grabbing from the pile of mixed beads next to me. And then just like we did previously, we're going to go into the next rondelle that's already there. And see how that just kind of pops that along the side. Here along the bottom, the same thing. We're adding 3 seed beads. We're adding a new rondelle. And this one happens to be the biggest of all my rondelles. Sometimes with the gemstones, they're going to be a little bit slightly inconsistent with size just because they're hand cut. And then we're going into the rondelle at the bottom again. So just like we did here, 1 more rotation of 3 seed beads, followed by a rondelle, followed by 3 more seed beads. And then after we have those 3 seed beads on, we're going to go into the last rondelle here. And see how you kind of get that nice dramatic effect. If you didn't want the seed beads along the side, you could always just go along the side of the project here. I'm going to go in, add my couple last seed beads, 7 to be exact, as I kind of clean up my mat and gather my silver seed beads all over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I knew I would find one laying around. All right, there's 7 beads on, just like we did. We're gonna go through the rondelle, looping that up. Nice tight grab. You can see how that fits in there. We're gonna go through our wire guard one more time. You wanna make sure when you go through your wire guard a second time, which is always a good idea, that you are making sure the thread stays in its tracks. Sometimes with a size 8 or with this bigger thread, you might have an issue doing so, and you're just gonna take your rondelle over, and there you have it. We're gonna weave our thread back down, and we're just going to tie our thread ends off to complete our ear wire, or to complete our earring before we put on our ear wire. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these home run earrings. Hopefully they were a hit for you. Remember, if you do need any supplies, look below the video in the description. We'll put links there to get back to our website. As always, if you haven't yet, hit that little subscribe button so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thanks so much for joining in, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.